the bishop are in prayer for us and have offered support.
Reverend Andy Oliver leads Allendale United Methodist, a gay-friendly church in St. Petersburg. Last year, someone threw a brick through the sign, and then someone spray-painted "gay pastor" on it. He reported that to police.
If we can start with having an accurate reporting of what hate looks like when action is put to it, then we know how we can go about trying to dismantle it and stop it.
Just down the road, Pastor Candace Schultes leads King of Peace, which someone defaced with a swastika.
And so we called the police, and the police came and took a report. So we were targeted by somebody, I think, who knows that we're a predominantly LGBT community here.
Those would both appear to be hate crimes by government definition, offenses motivated by bias, in these cases against sexual orientation. But according to our public records request, they never happened.
Read their response.
As discussed, we had no hate crimes reports from 2016 until present.
The government doesn't regard a swastika on your church as a hate crime.
Evidently not.
These are just two examples of a statewide pattern we discovered that caught state lawmakers by surprise.
Did you know those weren't reported?
I did not. That's very disappointing.
First, we requested 5 years of police reports and spreadsheets from cities and counties across Florida. Then we crunched it with the FBI's master list of hate crimes across the nation. That's how we found some hate crimes confirmed by local law enforcement are missing from the federal records. For example, Orlando confirmed 5 cases from 2015 that do not exist in the official federal reports. Then we searched the term hate crime in our own news archives, crunched the data again, and found other crimes officials described as acts of hate that local agencies never tagged as such. For example, investigators in St. Lucie County said a man set this convenience store on fire and told them he did it to, quote, run the Arabs out of the country. That did not register as a hate crime, and again, state lawmakers can't believe it.
That should have been reported as a hate crime, and the fact that it wasn't is really disturbing.
He is shot right outside the club.
The Pulse massacre in Orlando was also not listed as a hate crime, despite what the politician said.
It was not only an act of terrorism, but it was an act of a hate crime committed against a specific group.
Hate. An act of hate.
Meanwhile, in Tampa, this man admitted to threatening to burn down a home because a Muslim family planned to buy it.
This has been a very traumatic journey for me, my family.
See this FBI press release titled "Tampa Man Pleads Guilty to Hate Crime"? This is a federal case that does not appear in the FBI's master list. While local agencies process other hate crimes that never work up the chain, while others never get logged to begin with.
In Florida, the major cities have generally either not reported or underreported.
Professor Brian Levin leads the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at the University of California at San Bernardino. We asked him to analyze our findings.
We see a lot of 0, 0, 0, zeros. There's no way that in a state this large and this diverse that we would have that per capita number of hate crimes. Any criminologist would tell you so. We have a problem in Florida that's acute and different than some of the other states.
And he says it's costing Florida because support to fight hate crime is largely based on the stats, and underreporting could also fuel more attacks.
They're not just going to be denied funding. They're not responding to these crimes that are affecting large swaths of their population.
Which brings us to what's causing lapses in reporting. First, Florida's hate crime law does not protect people based on gender or gender identification. So for example, the man who killed 2 women in a Tallahassee yoga studio and said he was motivated by hatred of women did not commit a hate crime under state law.
How can that be?
The fact that we can't even prosecute that type of hate crime just speaks to how archaic Florida's current statute is.
That yellow is the worst years for the decade.
Meanwhile, Professor Levin says Florida also lacks state-driven training and policies other states have to improve reporting.
FBI recommends a 2-tier level of scrutiny where not only the responding officer, but some supervising officer gets to make the call. We need a model policy. We need a change in the state law.
State Representatives Anna Escamani and Carlos Smith told us they will go to work on this. This one is personal for Representative Smith, as a victim of hate violence himself.
I was called homophobic slurs, and then I was assaulted, beat up, given a black eye, a busted lip, a busted chin, my face mangled. It's a serious problem.
Meanwhile, back at Allendale United Methodist Church, Pastor Andy Oliver is concerned about more than his vandalized sign. Shortly after we left this interview, someone fired a bullet into the church building where they care for the preschool kids. Police can't say they were targeted. Reverend Oliver says state leaders need to do more.
I think the reason they haven't is because the voters haven't made that clear that that's something they want.
When you see that, what goes through your head?
People at the top can kind of wash their hands of it and say, well, there's no problem here.